Well, we're into July already, and can you believe we're halfway through 2021? The last few days the weather's changed. In fact, the temperatures are cold, but more importantly, we've had some really nice rain. The plants are in full bloom and I'm really enjoying it. So now's an ideal time. We'll go and take a plot tour. Start off, we'll do a tour in reverse, a bit different, and we'll have a look at the Vegepod first. I've had some really good crops out of this so far this year, and it still continues. These carrots here are the Autumn King 2, and I haven't thinned these out. I'm just going to take them as and when. They seem to be pushing each other out of the way, so hopefully we'll get some decent crop out of them. You can see here in the front we've got a fresh sowing of lettuce. These are, I think, are the Smile variety, the oak leaf ones. Along the back there, spring onions, the Ishikura bunching. And along the front here is some beetroot and the Bolt Hardy variety. Along the back we've got some bulb onions from seed. They don't seem to be doing a lot, but I'll just let them go and see what happens. Well, the main winner for me in here is these tomatoes. These are the variety called Tumbler, which I sometimes grew these in a hanging basket, but something different, I thought I'd put them in here. And as you can see, we've already got 3 or 4 fruits already turned, and this microclimate in here suits them really well. So we'll keep our eye on these during the rest of the year. This apple tree here is the Golden Delicious, and not showing very good promise at the moment. I reckon fruit trees have a rest every so often, because last year we had prolific fruit on the apple and pear tree and the cherry, and there's probably 20 or 30 apples on, but I was expecting more than that, so I'm happy to write that off for this year. In this bed here, as you might know, this is the old asparagus bed. The strawberries have seemed to have taken over at the moment, so rather than rip them up, I'm going to leave them. Although this year I'm going to be potting some of these up. I'm letting this go more or less as a wildlife bed at the moment. There's some allotment poppies, as I call them, and there's a few of the asparagus ferns I'm still growing. And I've also put in here 4 of the spare sunflower plants that I didn't put into the potato bed, which we'll look at later on. So this here is what I'm going to call me wildlife bed at the moment. Looking at these strawberry plants, these are just chock-a-block now packed. We have started cropping, and I can see still quite a lot of fruits in there. As I said, this is the 4th year of growing these, so at the end of this season I'll be potting the runners up, saving those, and I'll be replanting them ready for a fresh crop for next season. Inside the coal frame here, I don't know if you'll see it too good through the mesh, I've got my winter brassicas ready to go out. There's 3 varieties of cabbage and 1 cauliflower, and there's a few spare plants of other things. I think there's a pot of leeks, some onions and stuff like that, but I'll have a clear out in there a bit later on. The pear tree had a good show of blossom this year, and although I've lost quite a lot in the June drop, there's still a few fruits developing, so looking forward to that. So we did have a good crop of this last year. It's not so good news with the Egremont russet tree. There's very few fruits on it, and I've got this, I don't know what's happening on here, I'll just take this leaf off, but that seems quite common amongst the tree all over. I don't know if some disease or something is caught this year, but hopefully it's a one-off and it will return back to normal for next year. We have had a similar issue here with the cherry tree. There's not much fruit on compared to last year anyway, but for some reason this year we seem to have been plagued by both wood pigeons and magpies. They're taking the fruits rather earlier than usual. Moving into the allotment greenhouse, things are really starting to move into gear now. The tomatoes are all in flower, quite a few got fruits on. This is the auto pot system that we've got along here, which is fed by that reservoir tank. Everything is looking fairly good. As I say, these are 3 Crimson Crush, and the one on the very end there, that there is the Sweet Million. So all doing good, tied in. Grapevine along the top here, that needs thinning out. That should have been done quite a long while ago. Haven't got round to it, but I really need to do it because it's wasting energy on the bunches that I'll be removing. So that's imminent job really. Along the back we've got the 3 cucumbers, the mini munch. They're starting to climb now. Fairly slow start. These are in the auto pot system again, and but they've started to move now. The tendrils are coming round. I know some people actually remove them, but I just tend to leave them on. So they're heading up towards the stars. Go around this side first. We've got the other tomato system. These are the Greenhouse Sensation quad grow system. Again, they're doing well. Lovely lush green foliage in there, and fruits on the tomatoes. Again, 3 Crimson Crush and 1 Sweet Million. Just got some little fruits appearing on there, but these Sweet Million, if you've never grown them before, well worth a shot because they have some tremendously long trusses on. And right along here we've got the mixture of peppers. Most of them now, in fact I think all of them, have got some form of fruit showing. So hopefully a bit later on, and some warm weather, we'll get some decent fruits off these. I do feed these once a week with just comfrey, and there's nothing else, and they seem to be, so they're reveling in it, so I'll just continue doing that. So that's the greenhouse on the allotment. This is me elephant garlic, which is drying out. If you saw the previous episode, you'd have seen me harvesting this alongside with the normal garlic. I've got this sheet of polycarb, which I just pop on the top, and that has done its job really well the last few nights where we've had torrential rain, but it does give plenty of airflow. So I'll probably leave that out here for a week or so, then I'll pop it inside the garden shed. And moving forward here, these are my shallots, and I must admit to being a little bit disappointed with these. The bulbs I'm just starting to swell now, but they're nothing of the size that I had last year. I have been plagued by the dreaded mare's tail in this bed, and plus a little bit in the one next door, and I don't think that's helped. But even so, I didn't actually split the shallots this year, I just let them grow. Normally I'll take them out to about 4 bulbs, but some of these have got 6 and 7, which I think may have reduced the size. However, I'm going to give them another couple of weeks before I actually lift them. And the plan then is to continue fill this bed with the leeks moving this way. So this bed will be completely full of leeks at the moment. And talking of leeks, these are the ones that I planted. Again, this was in the previous episode. There's 4 rows of the usual Musselburgh, and there's 3 rows of the Leon. Moving on to these 2 onion beds. These have done really well for me this year, and I've run the gauntlet a bit. I haven't actually netted them, and there's a couple of plot alders on site have been hit already by the allium leaf miner, but I will be netting this later on, probably the next few weeks, ready for the second round of the allium leaf miner. So I'm very, very happy with the crop so far. Right at the beginning we got the Kelsey onions, and there's a few different varieties of the onions from sets. Those are the heat-treated ones. And along the back there we've got those are the Robinson's Mammoth, and this tangled mess at the front of me here, this is the long red Florence, and also the Zabru and the banana shallots. I've planted those as individual plants and also in clumps, and they both seem to be doing okay. Looking at the Brassica cage, everything there is looking hunky-dory. Right along the back at row here, I've got 5 plants in each section of Brussels sprout, and the variety is called Crispus. About every 2 weeks I'm just checking them and tying them in, because they do grow at a rapid rate at this time of the year. The other crops in here, there's 3 variety of cabbage, and I'll put a trailer at the bottom there so you can actually see the varieties. The other crops in here, we've got a few Celery plants. They're not looking too good at the moment. They've got a bit of rust on, and I think I had the same issue with some of them last year. And right at the very front, we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 varieties of the green kohlrabi. They're doing really good and almost ready for harvest. In the centre section here, we've got probably my second favourite brassica, and that is the Calabrese. When I first put these in, there's a couple of plants which threw a floret straight up, and I thought they was going to bolt, but I quickly cut them off. They've put some side shoots out. I've harvested those, and thankfully the others have behaved themselves and now starting producing some nice florets, big heads, which we're harvesting a few at a time. And right at the front of that, we've got some red kohlrabi as well, which is also ready for harvest. And into this final bed here, all this here is cauliflower. They're mainly Clapton, but I've got a couple of rows of all year round. Having a closer look, there's no sign of anything being produced yet, but I'm happy with that. Looking at the parsnips now, they've done really well. Germination was good. There's only 3 stations that actually failed. I've resown them and they've popped their heads up. The main job for me now is to actually thin these down to 1 plant, and also remember to remove the collars. In the middle bed here is my favourite tomato, the Crimson Crush. There's 12 plants altogether. They're doing well. In fact, need to take the side shoots off here because they grow at such a rapid rate, and also tie them in. There's plenty of flowers showing, and there's 1 or 2 got fruits on, so we can look forward to some nice tomatoes off them in the future. In between the rows, I've actually interplanted with bolt-hardy beetroot, and they plenty of foliage on, but not much bulb at the moment, but we can hang on for a bit. And right on this end bed here, there's 2 sowings of peas, Kelvin Wonder, Earth's Green Shaft, that's it, Earth's Green Shaft. And this crop here is actually ready for harvest. Long big pods with plenty of peas in, they've swelled out. The other one's just producing flowers. It's unfortunate for these that when I grow these I have to actually put a net over, because the sparrows just devastate the tops, pinching the tops out, and don't do the peas much good. However, so that's the peas there, the Earth's Green Shaft. The other side of the pea cage, we've got a little bit of a salad bed. There's 2 rows of beetroot here. There's bolt hardy, and I'm just starting to bulb up now, so I'll be looking forward to having the crop off them. Next to them we've got a couple of rows of mixed lettuce. There's 2 alkali varieties. There's the green Smile and the red Navara. And the 1 row here is a really thick bulbous type, and that's called Interred. But the best thing for me on this one is the celery. That's grown really well, nice and thick, and this rain is doing it a tremendous amount of good. The only problem is there's markings on the leaves, and I don't know if it's celery blight again, but keep our fingers crossed it's not. Looking in this bed next to the parsnips, I've got 2 rows of Swede, and they've picked up now. When I first put them in, there was a little bit sickly and straggly, but with this rain we've had, they've greened up nicely. And filling the rest up is the beetroot. There's 4 rows, and those are bolt hardy beetroot that are planted from plugs. So we get to the potatoes. These are the second earliest, the Shallots. Most of them are flowered now. I've just popped the heads off, and I'll have to check in my diary when they're ready, but I should imagine another 3 or 4 weeks I'll be taking a few buckets out just to take a look inside. These are doing quite well. No sign of the dreaded blight word yet. But moving on to here, these are the 12 buckets of Sarpos. slowly catching these up, but the main start of these is the sunflowers, and this is the entry for the Sunflower Challenge 2021 hosted by Nick's Allotment. These are doing quite well. I might have to add a few supports a bit higher soon, and the heads are just forming, so they're looking good. This is my other little salad bed. Along the front here we've got a couple of courgettes, and they're just starting to produce flower now. There's a little bit light starting, and I did water them in well, but for some reason they just stood still. However, this extra rain has seen boost them up and producing plenty of flowers. In front of them, I've got some spring onions, ramrod. They're just starting to thicken up now, so I'll be harvesting those soon. And again, in front of them, a few rows of different variety of lettuce. I'll put the varieties along the bottom. I've already started picking those. And in front of those is a bunch of radish, French breakfast 3. Those crop really fast. Great little plant to use for a catch crop if you've got a bit of spare space somewhere between longer ground crops. Just flick a row of those in and they'll be up in no time, ready to harvest. On this frame here, we've got 2 rows of beans. This side we've got the French beans. There's 2 varieties here called Cobra and Blue Lake. We've actually got beans showing on here, so they'll probably make the dinner plate for Sunday. And the other side we've got the runner beans and the varieties Benchmaster. They've already reached the top of the canes, so I've just given them the chop across the top, and might have to do it a bit later on as well. But the beans now, again, these is another variety which was slow starting, but late in the season they'll boost up, and hopefully I'm happy for these to go right on to the end of the first frost. So that's the beans. Looking at the carrot tanks, they've gone ballistic. I did actually put a cover over in time here, because last year on the light cropping ones I did get a bit of the carrot root flying, so I've covered them up with the Enviromesh. Obviously too small because I'm pressing the foliage right at the top. I haven't actually thinned these carrots out, so I don't know what I'm going to be getting at the end of the season. I'll be pulling 1 or 2 just to leave a gap, to let them spread out. Germination has been very, very good all round. I say the second or the final sowing here, I will actually thin those out to get some decent sized carrots. But that is a priority job, to raise this frame up a bit higher. And the final bed of this tour is the flower border. I've done 4 or 5 different varieties, predominantly dahlias, a few marigolds, but the ones for me, the stars of the show, are these Hilda's mix, the sweet peas. The scent of them is fantastic, and they keep cropping. Cut these on a regular basis and they just keep throwing flowers up. So that's about it for this tour of the plot for the summer of 2021. I hope you've enjoyed it, and just as importantly, I hope your crops are doing as good as these are. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, stay safe all, and bye for now.